Let me introduce myself first. My name is Rayhan. Back then, I was working a delivery job, mostly night shifts. I had to drive along long highways outside the city almost every day. It was one of the most exhausting times of my life, but also when the strangest things happened to me. This incident took place about 2 years ago. It was around 1 a.m. I had just finished a delivery and was heading back. The highway was nearly empty, just a few trucks in the distance and an occasional car passing by. The moon was out, but hidden behind clouds, making everything feel unusually dark. My car was running low on fuel. I decided to stop at a gas station ahead that I had seen a few times before, but I had never stopped there at night. As soon as I entered the station, I felt something was off. The lights were on, but they were flickering slightly. The whole place felt unnaturally cold. Even though it was a warm night, I got chills. There were no other cars around, just me and the empty station. I got out of the car and walked toward the pump. Strangely, there was no one there, no staff, no customers. I called out, "Hello? Anyone here?" No response. I thought maybe someone was inside, so I started walking toward the store. Just then, I heard a girl's voice from behind. "Are you here for fuel?" I froze and turned around. There was a girl standing there. She looked about 22 or 23, long hair, wearing a light blue dress. But the first thing that felt strange, her face was unusually pale, and her eyes, they were too calm, almost emotionless. I hesitated and said, "Yeah, but I thought no one was here." She gave a faint smile. "I'm here. I work here." That surprised me. I had never seen her before. She turned on the pump and started filling my tank. The whole time, she never made eye contact, just kept looking down while working. Trying to break the silence, I asked, "You work this late?" She replied slowly, "Yes, night is my shift." There was something cold in her voice that made me uncomfortable. When she finished, I went to pay. She said, "Cash will do." I handed her the money. As she took it, her hand touched mine, and I instantly felt it. Her hand was ice cold. I looked at her, confused. "Why is your hand so cold?" She didn't answer, just looked at me once, and I still can't forget that look. It felt like she was seeing right through me. Then she suddenly said, "You're new here, aren't you?" I replied, "No, I pass by sometimes." She shook her head slowly. "Don't come here at night. This place isn't good." I tried to laugh it off. "Why?" She didn't answer, just stared into the darkness behind the station. That's when I noticed something. A car parked in one corner of the station. It looked old, covered in dust, like it hadn't been used in a long time. I asked her, "Whose car is that?" She replied quietly, "That's from long ago." Then suddenly, her tone changed. "You should leave, now." There was urgency in her voice this time. Feeling uneasy, I got into my car. Just as I was about to start the engine, I glanced at the rearview mirror. I saw her standing there, but she wasn't alone. There was a shadow behind her, tall, unclear, but definitely shaped like a person. My heart skipped a beat. I quickly turned back. No one was there. I looked at the mirror again. The shadow was still there. She was staring directly at me, slowly shaking her head as if warning me to leave. I didn't wait another second. I drove off as fast as I could. About 10 minutes later, I stopped at another gas station. There was an older man there. I casually asked, "The gas station back there, there's a girl working there, right?" The man looked at me strangely. "What girl?" I said, "Long hair, blue dress." He stayed quiet for a moment. Then he said, "That station has been closed for 6 months."
A cold wave ran through my body. I said, "No, I just came from there. There was a girl." The man spoke slowly. 6 months ago, there was an accident. A girl who worked the night shift. A drunk driver hit her. She died on the spot. My hands went cold. He added, "Since then, some people say they still see a girl there at night." I didn't say anything else. I never took that road at night again. But the scariest part? The next morning, I found something on my car seat. An old, torn receipt from that gas station. The date on it was 6 months ago.
That night, I will never forget it. Even now, whenever I pass by a gas station, my body turns cold. It feels like someone is watching me from very close. Back then, I used to work the night shift. The gas station was on the edge of town, right off the highway. The place was naturally quiet. During the day, a few trucks and occasional cars would stop by, but after midnight, it felt completely dead. That night was no different. It was 1:43 a.m. A thin layer of fog had settled outside. Under the station lights, the fog looked thick, almost like milk floating in the air. I was sitting behind the counter, scrolling through my phone. Suddenly, I noticed something on the CCTV monitor in front of me. A shadow moved. At first, I thought maybe a car had pulled in, but no, the road was empty. I leaned closer to the monitor. Camera 3, the one facing pump number 2. There was a man standing there. I don't know where he came from. He was completely still, head lowered, arms hanging beside his body. He stood in a way that felt wrong, like he had been standing there for a long time. A strange discomfort started building in my chest. I stepped outside. "Hey, do you need gas?" No response. I walked a little closer. That's when I saw his face, and every hair on my body stood up. His eyes were gone. I mean, the sockets were there, but inside it was just darkness, like 2 deep, endless holes. I instinctively took a step back. "Sir, are you okay?" He slowly raised his head. Then, in a low, trembling voice, he said, "Turn on the pump." His voice was wrong. It sounded like multiple voices speaking at once. Deep, shaky, unnatural. I knew something wasn't right, but according to the rules, I had to serve the customer. So I went back inside and turned on the pump. Then I looked at the monitor again. He was still standing there, but now his head was slightly tilted and he was looking directly at the camera. My throat went dry. I stepped outside again. "Sir, aren't you going to take the gas?" No response. I looked at the pump. The nozzle was lying on the ground. He wasn't even using it. I turned back toward him. This time, he was right in front of me. I swear, just seconds ago, he was at least 10-12 feet away. I stepped back. "How did you get here?" He smiled. No, that wasn't a smile. It was something else, something terrifying. His lips stretched slowly across his face, but those hollow, dark eye sockets remained still. "You're alone." My body froze. I ran inside and locked the door. My heart was pounding so loud I thought it would be heard outside. I looked at the CCTV monitor. He was gone. The entire place was empty. I let out a shaky breath. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe. Just then, I heard a voice behind me. "You already turned on the pump." My body went numb. Slowly, I turned around. He was standing right behind me, inside the counter area. But I had locked the door. I screamed, "How did you get in here?" He tilted his head slightly. "I've been here for a long time." Then he placed his hand on the counter. That's when I noticed his hand was wet and red. Blood. My eyes widened. He leaned forward slowly. "Do you know what used to be here?" I couldn't speak. He answered himself. "There was an accident here." Suddenly I remembered my manager once told me that years ago a terrible accident happened at this exact spot. A car caught fire and the man inside burned alive. My voice shook as I asked, "Are you that man?" He smiled again. "I couldn't get out." His voice became more distorted. "I still can't get out." Suddenly the lights flickered. Then everything went dark. Complete darkness. In the silence, I could hear his breathing, very close, right beside my ear. "You will help me get out." I screamed and ran toward the door. I burst outside. The whole place looked empty, but then I smelled something burning, strong, like something was on fire. I turned back. Inside the gas station, flames. I froze. But the fire was strange. It stayed contained inside. Nothing outside was burning. And in the flames, I saw him, standing exactly the same way. But now his skin was burning, slowly peeling away. He raised his hand toward me. "Come back." I didn't wait another second. I ran to the road. After a while, a truck stopped. I told the driver everything. He went inside to check. Everything was normal. No fire, nothing. The next day, I quit my job. But that's not the end. A few days later, I was passing that road again. From a distance, I saw the gas station. Then something caught my eye. Near pump number 2, someone was standing, head down, completely still, just like before. But this time, he wasn't alone. There was someone else standing beside him. Me. Same face, same posture, head down, still. That's when I realized I never truly left that place.
My name is Raihan. I'm 29 years old. I work at a small software company. I never believed in ghosts, black magic, or anything like that. I always thought those things were just fear and superstition created by people. But something that happened to me last year changed everything, in a way that even now, when I try to sleep at night, my chest feels cold. The story started within my own family. We have a pretty big family. After my grandfather passed away, there were a lot of conflicts over his property, especially my uncle. He always believed that my grandfather loved me more than others, and that's why he left some property in my name. I never really cared about any of that, but in his eyes, I had somehow become an enemy. At first, things were normal, just silent tension. My uncle stopped talking to me, avoided eye contact. But the real strange things started a few months later. One night, I suddenly woke up. It felt like someone was standing right outside my bedroom door. At first, I thought I was imagining things, but then I heard a whisper. "You won't be happy with what you took from me." The voice was cold, dry. It didn't even sound human. It felt like it was coming from underground. I got up and opened the door immediately. No one was there. The whole house was silent. The next morning, I tried to convince myself it was just a nightmare, but that night was just the beginning. After that, something strange started happening almost every day. Things in my room would move on their own. My phone wouldn't be where I left it. I'd find it under the bed in the morning. The lights would flicker on and off randomly. But the worst part was at night, when I felt pressure on my chest while sleeping. It felt like someone was sitting on me. But when I opened my eyes, there was nothing there. One night, I came home late from work. As soon as I entered my room, I noticed a strange smell. Something was burning, but it wasn't wood or plastic. It was sharp, unfamiliar, disturbing. The smell was coming from my bed. I checked under my pillow. There was a small cloth bundle. My hands were shaking as I opened it. Inside, there were black threads, a small doll stained with red marks, and some hair. My entire body went cold. Because that hair, it was mine. I was sure of it. That night, I couldn't sleep at all. I felt like someone was watching me. Not just watching, waiting.
The next morning, I told my mother everything. At first, she didn't believe me, but when she saw the bundle, her face changed. In a very low voice, she said, "Someone made this to harm you." I asked, "Who would do this to me?" She stayed silent for a while, then slowly said, "You can't trust everyone, not even your own people." That line stuck in my head. After that, I started noticing the way my uncle looked at me. There was a strange smile on his face, like he knew something I didn't. One afternoon, I was home alone. Suddenly, I felt extremely dizzy. My body became weak. I couldn't even stand properly. Then, I heard that same whisper again. "Slowly, you'll be finished." I leaned against the wall and sat down. Everything around me was getting blurry. And then I looked at the mirror. I saw my reflection, but it wasn't me. My face looked distorted. My eyes were completely black, and there was an unnatural smile on my lips. I screamed, and the next moment, everything was normal again. I didn't wait anymore. That same night, I went to a man my friend had told me about, someone experienced with these things. After hearing everything, he became very serious. He said, "Someone has done something to you, and it's someone close." I asked, "Can this be stopped?" He replied, "If we act in time, maybe." For the next few days, I followed everything he told me. I burned certain things, recited specific prayers, and most importantly, he told me not to keep any of those objects in my house. I did everything. Slowly, the strange things started to stop. The whispers disappeared, the pressure at night was gone. I thought it was over. But one day, I found out my uncle had suddenly become very sick. His condition got worse very quickly. One day, I was passing by his room when he called me in. I went inside. He looked at me and said in a weak voice, "You survived, but it's not over." Before I could say anything, he started coughing. Then, in a very low voice, he said, "What has begun never truly ends." Those words still echo in my mind. Everything seems normal now. I'm fine. But sometimes, very late at night, when everything is completely silent, I still hear that whisper. Very slowly, very close. It's not over.
I never really thought much about mirrors until I moved into that apartment. At the time, I had just gotten a new job in New York City. My budget was tight, so while searching for a cheap place, I found an old building, apartment 13B. From the very first day, I felt something off, a strange coldness. But the weirdest thing was the mirror in the bedroom. Old wooden frame, and the glass slightly blurry, like someone was watching from inside. The first night, nothing happened. But on the second night, I suddenly woke up, and for some reason my eyes were drawn toward the mirror. I couldn't explain why. I just kept staring, and that's when I saw it. In the mirror, I was standing, but I was lying in bed. My whole body froze. The me inside the mirror slowly tilted its head and gave a twisted smile. Its eyes were black, completely black, like there was no light inside them. I shut my eyes. When I opened them again, everything looked normal. I convinced myself it was just a hallucination. But that was only the beginning. After that, every night, the me in the mirror started changing, little by little. One night, I saw long cracks across its face. Another night, its teeth looked unnaturally large and sharp. The most terrifying night came in the third week. I was standing in front of the mirror. I gathered my courage and looked directly at my reflection. Suddenly, it moved. I didn't move, but the version of me in the mirror slowly raised its hand. Then, it tried to push its hand out through the glass. I stepped back, and then I heard it. A raspy voice. "You took my place." My chest turned ice cold. I ran toward the door, but it wouldn't open. When I looked back, the me inside the mirror was now pressed fully against the glass. Its face horribly distorted, its eyes deep like empty holes, and its skin tearing and hanging loose. Slowly, its fingers started coming out through the glass. Long, black, broken nails. They were moving toward me. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. And then suddenly, it grabbed my hand. Its touch was freezing cold, but unbelievably strong. I could feel it, pulling me toward the mirror. I struggled desperately, but it kept dragging me closer. At the last moment, I grabbed a lamp from the wall and threw it at the mirror. A loud crash. The glass shattered. I fell to the floor, gasping for air. It felt like it was finally over. But the next morning, when I looked into the small bathroom mirror, I saw it again. This time, it was smiling. And right next to my ear, it whispered, "You think you got out? Even now, I'm not sure. Am I the real one? Or did the thing from the mirror already take my place?"
Tonight, I'm going to tell you something that happened to me, and I still don't know if I actually survived that night or not. I had just moved to Los Angeles, a small apartment, old building. The hallway always smelled damp, and at night, it was too quiet. I used to do late-night live streams on YouTube, just talking to random viewers. That night, it was around 2:45 a.m. I went live. Everything felt normal. About 10, maybe 12 people watching. Chat was slow, relaxed. And then a new user joined. The username was Watcher_17. At first, they typed, "Did you lock your door?" I smiled, thought it was just another troll. But then, another message came in. "There's someone standing behind you." I froze for a second. Then slowly, I turned around. Nothing. No one was there. The chat started joking, people telling me to turn around again. I laughed it off, tried to ignore it, but then Watcher17 typed again. "No, they're still there. You just can't see them." That's when I started to feel uncomfortable. I stood up, walked to the door, checked the lock. It was locked. I came back, sat down, and then suddenly, my screen glitched. The stream froze for a few seconds, and then I saw something I will never forget. On my own live stream, I saw myself, but not the way I was sitting. In the video, I was standing, and behind me, there was something tall, unnatural, its face twisted like it was broken, its eyes completely black, its mouth stretched open with long, jagged teeth. It slowly leaned toward my ear like it was whispering something. I tried to stop the stream, but my mouse wasn't working. The chat exploded. People were typing. "What is that? Run! Turn around!" I didn't understand what was happening. Was I hacked? Was this pre-recorded? And then I heard it. Knock, 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 coming from behind me, from the wall. I turned around slowly. The wall, it was moving, like something inside was trying to get out. The surface started to crack, and then something pushed through. Not a hand, something worse. Long, twisted fingers forcing their way out. My body stopped moving. I couldn't breathe. And then, in the chat, Watcher17 typed again, "I told you, it's coming out now." I ran to the door, tried to open it, but it wouldn't move. It was stuck, like something was holding it from the other side. And then I felt it, a cold breath right on my neck. Slowly, I turned around. It was standing right behind me, so close I could smell it, rotten, wet, like something dead. Its face, no eyes, just empty black holes. And that smile, that horrible, unnatural smile. It leaned closer and whispered, "You're the one who invited me." I tried to scream, but no sound came out. Everything went dark. I never used to believe in things like this. Ghosts, spirits. To me, they were just stories. But after that night, I can't drive alone at night anymore. This happened about a year ago. I was working an IT job in California. That night, I got off work really late. By the time I left the office, it was already past 1 a.m. My apartment was far from the city. I had to take a long, empty highway to get home. And that night, something felt off. There was no moon in the sky, just thick, black clouds covering everything. Some of the streetlights were broken. The road felt swallowed by darkness. I was driving, listening to an old song on the radio, but suddenly, the radio started cutting out. Static noise filled the car. Kurr, kurr, shh. I frowned and switched channels, but every station had the same sound. And then, the radio turned on by itself. A faint, distorted voice came through. "Help me." My heart skipped a beat. I quickly turned it off. I told myself, just a signal issue. But something didn't feel right. I pressed the gas a little harder. The clock read 2:17 a.m. And that's when I saw her. At first, just a shape in the headlights. Then it became clear. A girl, standing on the side of the road, wearing a white dress, her long hair covering her face. She wasn't moving, not even a little, like she had been standing there, waiting. My mind started racing. What is she doing here? Is she in trouble?
Or is this a trap? I was about to drive past her, but then she slowly lifted her head and looked straight at me. I swear, her eyes didn't look human. They were empty. No light, no life, just deep, hollow darkness. My hands tightened on the steering wheel, but stopped. I still don't know why. Maybe curiosity, maybe stupidity. I rolled down the window. She slowly walked toward me. No sound, no footsteps. It felt like she wasn't even touching the ground. My throat went dry. She stopped beside the car. I still couldn't fully see her face, just pale lips slightly visible through her hair.
Then she whispered, "Can you give me a ride?" There was no emotion in her voice, none at all. I hesitated. Then, without thinking, I said, "Yeah, get in." She opened the door. I heard it clearly, but the car didn't shift at all, like no one got in. I swallowed hard. I looked in the rearview mirror. She was there, sitting in the back seat. But something was wrong. The darkness around her felt thicker, like the light couldn't reach her. I started driving again. Silence filled the car. Then I asked, "Where are you going?" She paused, then said, "Just drive." Her voice sounded different now, like multiple voices speaking at once. My fingers went cold, and then I noticed the temperature inside the car was dropping fast. My breath became visible, but the AC was off. Slowly, I looked in the mirror again, and this time, what I saw paralyzed me. Her head was tilted unnaturally, like her neck was broken. Her hair had moved, and now I could see her face. Torn skin, deep cuts, and her eyes empty. But her lips were smiling, a twisted, unnatural smile. I tried to stop the car, but my foot wouldn't move. Then she spoke, "Do you know how I died?" I shouted, "Stop! Get out of my car!" But she didn't listen. She leaned forward, slowly, very slowly. I felt her hand touch my shoulder, ice cold. My entire body froze. Her face was right next to mine now. I could smell something rotten, like blood. Then she whispered, "Right here." And suddenly, bang! A deafening crash. I looked forward. Something was right in front of the car. I slammed the brakes. The tires screeched. The car skidded. I shut my eyes. Then, silence. A few seconds passed. I slowly opened my eyes. My hands were shaking. I turned around. No one. The seat was empty. But it was wet. I reached out, touched it. Cold, thick, blood. I didn't wait another second. I drove away as fast as I could. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I saw the news. 10 years ago, a girl died in a hit-and-run accident on Highway 17 at exactly 2:17 a.m. My heart stopped. I kept reading. Then I saw her picture. Same girl, same white dress, same face, same smile. My phone slipped from my hand. But that's not the end. Ever since that night, not every time, but sometimes when I drive alone at night and I look into the rearview mirror, I see her, sitting there, silent, watching me. And slowly she leans forward, close to my ear, and whispers, Can you give me a ride?
Last summer, I was walking alone near the forest behind my house. We all knew that deep in the woods stood an old abandoned house, 2 stories, roof partially collapsed, windows shattered. People said that many years ago, a family lived there. One night, the entire family mysteriously vanished, and no one ever knew why. Since then, the house had been avoided by everyone. That evening, curiosity pulled me closer. From a distance, the house looked chilling. Green vines covering the roof and walls, the surrounding forest dark and silent. I started walking around the outside, peeking through the broken window frames. Suddenly, my eyes caught an old, dusty glass mirror, cracked and barely holding together. At first, I saw nothing in the reflection, but then, in the corner of the mirror, a pale, faded face appeared. White hair, sunken eyes shadowed in darkness.
I instinctively stepped back, but the face in the mirror slowly edged closer. Even though fear was gripping me, curiosity forced me inside. I slowly pushed open the door. The inside smelled of dust, decay, and something I couldn't identify. Broken wood creaked under my feet, and shadows seemed to stretch unnaturally. Suddenly, in one corner, something moved. I froze. A shadow, like the softest footsteps, was inching toward me. I tried to run. Then a voice cracked the silence. "Why are you here?" It was dry, terrifying, almost like the voice had been trapped for decades. I froze, scanning the room. No one was there. A faint breeze rustled through the forest outside. With it came a sound, 2 wooden pieces scraping against each other, slowly descending from the ceiling. My heart was pounding like it would burst. Then, on the floor, I noticed tiny footprints, strange footprints, one after another, heading deeper into the house. I wanted to escape, but the door suddenly slammed shut. I was about to scream when I saw a hand emerge from behind the old broken sofa in the corner. The hand slowly lifted, and in the mirror's reflection, the same pale face stared at me. Hollow eyes, empty mouth, every breath trapped in my chest. I tried to back away. Suddenly, the ceiling collapsed with a deafening crash, as if the entire house was shaking. I ran out as fast as I could into the darkness of the forest. The sound of broken wood under my feet, the faint echoes of a distant wail, everything made it feel like someone was still watching me. When I finally reached a safe distance, the forest was quiet again. But through the cracked window, I caught a glimpse of that pale face staring back at me. For a moment, it felt like it was following me. When I turned quickly, nothing was there, just shadows and dust floating in the air. That night, even after I got home, sleep never came. I dreamed of that pale face, the broken ceiling, the creaking wood. For weeks, whenever I was alone in my room, it felt like someone was still inside. Tiny footsteps, faint breathing. Days later, I never walked near the house again. But one evening, I looked toward the forest and saw a shadow slowly walking across the abandoned house's windows. It felt like they were still waiting, silently, for someone to enter again.
It was a weekend trip. Me and my 3 friends, Daniel, Mark, and Jason, decided to go camping in a remote mountain area in the United States. It was one of those places where barely anyone goes. No signal, no nearby houses, just forest and silence. We arrived in the late afternoon. Tall pine trees everywhere, cold air, and this strange, heavy quietness. At first, it felt peaceful, almost too perfect, but everything changed after sunset. Around 10 p.m., we were sitting near the campfire, just talking. Suddenly, Jason said, "Do you guys hear footsteps?" We all went silent. Somewhere in the distance, we could hear it. Slow footsteps dragging across dry leaves. At first, I thought it was probably a deer or some wild animal, but the sound didn't stop. It kept moving, circling around us. Mark turned on his flashlight and pointed it toward the trees. Nothing. Then Daniel whispered, very quietly, "That's not a human." We looked again. Between the trees, something was standing there. It was hard to see clearly in the dark, but one thing was obvious. It wasn't normal. It was too tall, unnaturally tall. Its body looked twisted, and its arms were extremely long, hanging below its knees. We couldn't see its face properly at first, but it felt like it was staring directly at us. Then it took a step forward, and that's when we saw its face. Its eyes, too big, completely empty, no light in them at all, and its mouth stretched unnaturally wide like the skin had been torn open, revealing long, sharp teeth. Jason suddenly screamed, "Run!" We all ran toward the tent, but when I looked back, it wasn't running like a human. It was moving on all fours, incredibly fast.
The sound of its hands hitting the ground. Thap, thap, thap. It was getting closer. We jumped inside the tent and zipped it shut. Outside, the sound didn't stop. Something was walking around the tent, slowly, heavy breathing, right outside. Then suddenly, the side of the tent pushed inward. Something was pressing against it from outside. I froze. Then I saw it. A handprint on the fabric of the tent. But it wasn't human. The fingers were too long, twisted, unnatural. And then a whisper. "You shouldn't be here." I swear that voice wasn't human. None of us made a sound. For about 20 minutes, it stayed there, circling us. Then suddenly, silence. Complete silence. We waited until sunrise. The moment the sun came up, we ran to the car. But before leaving, we saw something that made us stop. On the ground, all around our tent, not footprints, marks of something moving on all fours, and each print was far too large to be any animal we knew. Even today, I don't know what we saw that night, but one thing is certain: it wasn't human.
It was the end of winter, 2018. I was studying at a high school in a small town in the United States. The school's name was Westbrook High School. From the outside, it looked completely normal, but the moment you stepped inside, you could feel a strange silence, like the walls were hiding something. I usually went home right after classes, but that day, everything was different. I had detention. It was around 5 p.m. The entire school was almost empty. The sound of my footsteps echoed through the hallways. Somewhere in the distance, a locker slammed shut, but I knew no one else was supposed to be there at that time. By the time detention ended, it was already evening. The school lights were turning off one by one. I was walking down the hallway to leave when suddenly I heard a faint sound behind me. Talk, talk, talk. It felt like someone was slowly walking behind me. I stopped. The sound stopped too. I started walking again and again. Talk, talk, talk.
My heart started pounding. I quickly turned around. No one. The entire hallway was empty. I tried to convince myself, maybe I'm just imagining things. But then, the door of a classroom on my right slowly started to open by itself. Creak. The sound was so slow and unnatural that my whole body went cold. I knew that room had been closed for a long time. I had heard that a few years ago, a girl had taken her own life inside that classroom. My feet stopped on their own. The door opened fully. Inside, complete darkness. Then, suddenly, a cold wind rushed out and hit my face. It was freezing, colder than anything I had ever felt. And then, I heard it. A girl crying softly. Whew, whew. My throat went dry. I slowly walked toward the door. That was my mistake. As I looked inside, I saw a girl sitting at the very back bench of the classroom. Her long black hair covered her entire face, messy, tangled, unnatural. Her body was bent in a strange way, like her bones weren't in the right place. With a trembling voice, I said, "Hey, what are you doing here?" She didn't respond. She just kept crying. Then, slowly, she lifted her head. I will never forget that face. Her eyes were completely black, no white at all. Her face was pale, her lips cracked, and around her neck were deep, dark marks, like someone had strangled her. She looked at me and gave a twisted, unnatural smile. Then, suddenly, she stood up. The way she stood, it wasn't human. It felt like her joints were bending the wrong way. She started walking toward me. Talk, talk, talk. That same sound. I slowly stepped back, but the closer she got, the more my body froze. Suddenly, she sprinted. In 1 second, she was right in front of me. I screamed and fell backwards, and the next moment, everything went black. When I woke up, I was outside the school. The security guard was giving me water. He said, "You went into that room again, didn't you?" Confused, I asked, "What do you mean?" He looked at me and said, "No one goes into that classroom. Everyone knows what happened there." My voice shook as I asked, "What happened?" He paused, then said, "A girl ended her life in that room. Since then, people say something watches them from inside. After that, I never walk alone in that hallway anymore. But the most terrifying part is, a few days later, when I looked at my school ID photo, I froze, because behind me, slightly blurred, she was standing there."
I was working the night shift at an old private hospital in Chicago. From the outside, it looked completely modern, but as soon as you stepped inside, there was a strange smell, a mix of old medicine, bleach, and something rotten. From day one, I felt uneasy, but I endured it for work. That night was Saturday, almost 2 a.m. Most of the patients were asleep, the corridors empty, only the distant sound of a monitor beep, beep, echoed through the halls. I was walking past the ICU on the 3rd floor. Suddenly, a door slowly creaked open. Creak, all by itself. I froze. Room number 309. The strange thing was, this room had been closed for months. A patient had mysteriously died there. I told myself maybe the wind caused the door to open, but the problem was all the ICU windows were sealed. I slowly approached the door,
and what I saw inside made my blood run cold. A figure was sitting on the bed. Even in the dark, I could tell it was human, but something was very wrong. I said, "Hello? Who are you? This room is closed." No answer. I stepped a little closer, then it slowly lifted its head. What I saw, I still can't forget. Its eyes were completely black, no whites at all. Its face unnaturally long, and dried blood streaked down from the corners of its mouth. Its skin was so pale, it looked like it had been dead for ages.
Cold smile. Then it spoke very slowly. "You, why are you standing in my place?" My body froze. I wanted to step back, but my legs wouldn't move. Suddenly, all the lights in the room went out. Complete darkness in the corridor. Only my own breathing and the distant beep, beep of the monitor. I could feel it wasn't on the bed anymore because a cold breath brushed right against my ear. It whispered, "Now you'll stay here." I tried to scream, but no sound came out. Then the lights flickered back on. I was standing alone, room 309 empty. Everything seemed normal. The next day, I checked the hospital records. The patient who had died in room 309 was named David Miller. And the most terrifying part? His time of death was exactly 2 a.m., the exact time I saw him. One more thing. CCTV footage showed that at 2 a.m., I had walked into room 309, but I never came out.
When I was a child, I spent every summer vacation at my grandfather's house in the village. Far away from the city's chaos, his old mud house stood alone, surrounded by green paddy fields and dirt paths. At first, everything seemed normal. The calls of birds, the morning fog, and playing around while listening to Grandpa's stories. But one afternoon, when Grandpa and my mother had gone out to work, I found myself drawn to the door of the empty room. Grandpa had always warned me, it's better if you don't go in there alone, but I couldn't resist my curiosity. As I placed my hand on the door, a cold breeze brushed against me, almost as if the room itself was breathing. Slowly, I pushed the door open, and what I saw made my blood run cold. The room was dark, with only a faint light coming through a small window. On the floor, among the dust, were red stains that looked like dried blood. I stepped closer, and that's when I saw it, an indistinct shadow moving toward me. Its face was completely black, and its eyes glowed faintly red in the dim light. I froze. The shadow moved closer, and suddenly I heard a whisper near my ear, "You shouldn't be here." I tried to scream, but no sound came out. I stumbled back, and the door slammed shut on its own. I was trapped inside, alone in the darkness, and then the shadow vanished. For the next few nights, I couldn't sleep. I kept a small light on and stayed alert. Sometimes I heard the faint clinking of glass or felt icy drafts that brushed against my skin, as if someone was moving around me. One day, I mustered the courage to check under the floor. I discovered a small cutout section containing some old newspapers, eerie drawings of shadowy figures, and a small metal box. When I opened the box, a chilling breeze burst out and everything in the room shook violently. That's when I realized there was something in this room that had never been normal. Villagers called this place a haunted house, but no one spoke of it openly. From that night on, I never went into the empty room alone. Finally, vacation ended and I returned to the city.
But even now, sitting in my room, I sometimes feel someone watching me, just like those dark, glowing eyes. I recount these events when I tell this story, and the fear still lingers, mingled with my very blood.
I still can't forget that night. Even now, thinking about it makes my body go cold. This happened about 2 years ago when I was living in a small town in the United States. Because of my job, I often had to travel outside the city, sometimes through long stretches of forest roads. That night was just like any other, except it turned into something I'll never be able to explain. I got a bit late leaving work, so instead of taking the longer highway, I decided to take a shortcut through the jungle road. At first, everything felt completely normal. Tall trees on both sides, a narrow paved road in the middle, and complete darkness beyond the reach of my headlights. The only sound was the faint chirping of insects. After driving for about 20 minutes, I suddenly noticed something that made me slow down. A small tea shop, right in the middle of the forest. I frowned. I had driven this road many times before, but I had never seen any shop here, especially not this deep inside the woods. The shop looked wrong. It was made of old wood with a rusty tin roof and a dim yellow light hanging in front. The strange thing was, the light was swaying slightly, even though there was no wind at all. At that moment, I felt tired, and oddly, I really wanted a cup of tea, so I pulled over. The moment I stepped out of the car, I realized something was off. All the sounds had stopped. No insects, no wind, nothing, just pure silence. I slowly walked toward the shop. As I entered, I saw an old man standing behind the counter. His face wasn't clearly visible because the light was behind him, casting his features in shadow. I said, "Can I get a cup of tea?" He nodded slowly, but didn't say a single word. He started preparing the tea, but something felt very strange. I didn't see any stove, no fire, no kettle, no sound at all. Yet within a few seconds, he placed a cup in front of me. The moment I touched it, my hand trembled. The tea was ice cold. I looked at him, confused. "This is cold." That's when he looked directly at me for the first time. His eyes, I will never forget them. Completely white, no pupils, no life. In a slow, dry voice, he said, "Everyone drinks cold tea here." My heart dropped. I immediately put the cup down. "No, I'm good." I turned around and rushed back to my car, but when I tried to start it, nothing. Once, twice, 3 times, it wouldn't start. Then, without thinking, I glanced at the rearview mirror, and what I saw? The old man was standing outside the shop, but not where he was before. He was right behind my car now, slowly walking closer. My whole body froze. Just then, the engine suddenly started. I didn't wait a second. I slammed the accelerator and sped away from that place as fast as I could. After about 10 minutes of driving, I gathered enough courage to look back. There was nothing. No one. I tried to convince myself it was just my imagination, stress. Maybe I was too tired. But the real horror came the next day. I drove down the same road again, this time in daylight. I searched carefully for that tea shop, but there was nothing there. No shop, no structure, nothing. At the exact spot, there was only an old broken wooden sign lying on the ground. I got out of the car and walked toward it. The faded writing on it said, "Last Stop Tea, closed since 1987. And below that, in smaller letters, owner died in a fire inside the shop. A chill ran down my spine because I clearly remember there was no fire in that shop last night, and the tea was ice cold. That's something that really happened to me, and to this day, I never take that road alone at night again.
Let me introduce myself first. My name is Ethan Carter. I grew up in a small town in New Jersey. I've always been a rational person. I never believed in ghosts, black magic, any of that. At least, not until this happened. This story is from my own life, and even now, when I'm alone at night, thinking about it makes my whole body go cold. My cousin, her name was Emily Parker. We were very close growing up. We went to school together, spent time at every family gathering, but I never saw her that way. The problem started after we finished college. One day, Emily called me and said, "Ethan, I need to talk to you. It's important." I thought it was something normal, but when I met her, I could tell something was off just by looking into her eyes. She said calmly, "I've loved you for a long time." I stayed quiet for a moment. Then I said, "Emily, your family, I've never thought of you like that." At that moment, her expression changed. She tried to smile, but there was something dark in her eyes, like something inside her had broken. She just said, "Okay, you don't understand right now." After that, Emily started changing. She stopped coming to family gatherings. She wouldn't answer calls. If anyone asked, she'd say she was busy. I thought time would fix everything, but the real problem started about 2 months later. I was dating a girl named Jessica Miller. She was great. Everything was going fine until strange things began. At first, small things. Jessica would say, "When I'm around you, I feel weird, like someone is watching." I laughed it off. It's just stress. But one night, she suddenly went quiet. I asked, "What happened?" She slowly looked at me and said, "Don't you hear that?" I didn't hear anything. She whispered, "It sounds like someone is whispering." After that night, Jessica started pulling away. A few days later, she told me directly, "I can't be around you anymore. Something is wrong." I was shocked, but I didn't force her to stay. Then things started happening to me. At night, it felt like someone was walking inside my room. Sometimes I saw shadows near the door, but when I looked, nothing was there. The worst part were the dreams. I kept seeing the same thing. A dark room, a table in the middle, and on it a picture of me. Around the photo, something drawn in red, like symbols made with blood. And in the corner of the room, Emily, standing there, staring at me, smiling. I was slowly breaking down. One day, my mom called and asked, "Have you talked to Emily recently?" I said no. Why? She hesitated, then said, "She's acting strange. She doesn't let anyone into her room, and there's a weird smell coming from it at night." My heart dropped. I decided to go see Emily. When I knocked, she opened the door. She didn't look surprised, almost like she knew I'd come. Dark circles under her eyes, pale face, but a slight smile on her lips. She said, "Finally, you came." I asked directly, "Emily, what's going on with you?" She tilted her head slowly. "Do you really want to know?" She took me to her room. The moment I stepped in, I knew something was very wrong. A heavy, rotten smell filled the air, like something decaying. Strange symbols were drawn on the walls in red, and on the table, a picture of me, the same one I had been seeing in my dreams. My body went cold. I said, "Emily, what are you doing?" She slowly walked toward me, tears in her eyes, but there was something unhinged in her expression. "I just wanted to keep you with me." I stepped back. "You don't understand, Ethan. If you're not mine, you won't be anyone else's." My head was spinning. I realized this wasn't normal. Somehow, I managed to leave that house. After that, everything got worse. No matter where I went, I felt like something was following me. Any girl I talked to, they would feel uneasy, scared, and eventually leave. One of them even said, "There's something dark attached to you." Finally, I went to someone I knew. His name was David Ross. People said he understood strange things. He listened to everything, then went silent. After a while, he said, "Someone has performed a binding ritual on you." I almost laughed, but the seriousness in his eyes stopped me. He continued, "Whoever did this wants to keep you tied to them, so you can never belong to anyone else." My throat went dry. David gave me instructions, things to do, things to avoid. The most important one, cut all contact with Emily. I did exactly that. Slowly, very slowly, things started to get better. The dreams stopped. The whispers at night disappeared. A few months later, I heard Emily had left town. No one knows where she went. Now, after all this time, I live a normal life. I got married. Everything seems fine. But there's one thing that still haunts me. Sometimes, deep in the night, I suddenly wake up and I feel like someone is whispering my name very softly, Ethan. And that voice, it sounds like Emily's. I still don't know if it's really over or if somewhere, somehow, she's still holding on to me.